So let's shift the conversation to what we're going to work on today, which is a form of resourcing, not unlike what we've done in the past, developing inner resources. So I just want to remind you that a resource in this way that I'm thinking of it is something that supports you. So what we'll be doing is developing an inner resource that allows us to manage or to interact with discomfort in the body. So in a way, Marion, this one is built for you. But for the rest of us, let me just ask this question. I'd like you to scan your body for maybe 10 seconds. Scan for discomfort. It doesn't have to be massive. It's just anything that right now is a little, maybe painful. Okay, so that's about 10 seconds. Would you raise your hand if you found something? Okay, everybody hand up. Okay, hands down. Part of the beauty of seeing everybody's hand goes up is that it may be a form of evidence that when this happens to you, you are not alone. This is part of the human condition. When you find places psychologically, psychically, emotionally, or physically that are uncomfortable or in pain, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong or that somehow you are bad or undeveloped. So here's what the world that's been developing around how to heal from trauma, this exercise comes from that world. So I'd like you to think of a pendulum. And I'm going to call this, so a pendulum swings from a set point. And I want you to call this, think of this action of the lower hand as pendulation. I'm not sure that we actually have a verb for this action. So I'm going to use the verb that was created for this, which is pendulation. So that's what we'll be doing in this practice, is pendulating from where we feel resourced or comfortable, or I'll leave it at that, to where we feel uncomfortable, painful, awkward. So, this ability to go from resourced towards pain or difficulty and back to resource, it helps us recognize that inside a couple of things. One, we have a choice where we put our attention. Two, we have the capacity to go from resource to fear back to resource, or resource to pain back to resource. When we feel that capacity, it makes whatever is painful or fearful so much less onerous, because we know we have that capacity to go into it and pull out of it. Go into it, and before we're overwhelmed or overtaken or filling our hearts with self-pity, we release and we go back into resource.
Are you speaking or should we be thinking of both physical and psychological discomfort?
Did you have something more to say?
No.
Okay, today the focus is on the physical.
Okay.
However, when we are in psychological pain, like anxiety, there are distinct sensations that are very physical that are associated with anxiety. This is part of the longer and broader path of becoming resilient when there's difficult situations. So, so this practice continues to develop even with situations that don't seem so physical. Maybe they seem fearful, or they seem anxious, or there's worry, or there's anger. Going towards the physicality of those emotions is part of the power, and I would say the magic, if you will, of this pendulation. It's part of what allows us to heal and face that which is difficult, because most of the time, at least part of what's going on is the physical sensations are so uncomfortable that we want to escape them at all costs. What's happening in this practice is we're developing the courage to face, the ability to go close and then pull back before we get hurt. Okay, any other questions? Mm, 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 mm. Okay, then let's do this practice for today. So your posture can be anything. Any posture works. What I'd like you to pay attention to once you've settled into a posture is I'd like you to shift your breathing to be extra slow and extra deep. Your eyes can be open or closed, but the focus is on the long inhalation, the long exhalation. So I'd like you to scan your body to notice where you feel breathing the most. And then put a hand there where you feel the breathing the most. And now you can let go of the extra long, extra slow breathing. And let the hand's presence draw your attention to where you were feeling the breath the most and see if that's still the case. Okay, so now I'd like you to notice whether that sensation of where you were feeling the breath, that sensation, is it in flux? Is it changing? Hmm. So what I'd like you to explore is whether the sensation that originally you named as the sensation where I feel the most breathing, or I feel breathing the most, is that a single rock solid, not changing sensation, or is it fluctuating? Is it transforming? Okay. So that sensitivity, that interoception, interior perception, that's what we're going to be developing further through this practice. Check or scan your body now for any part of your physical experience that feels grounded, or there's a sense of solidity, grounded or rooted. Maybe it's the bottoms of your feet on the floor. Maybe the pressure of your buttocks against the chair. And if neither of those places feel like that's grounding or rooting, and no other place seems like that, then consider bringing your hands up to your upper arms and shoulders, crossing your forearms around your chest, and squeezing, gently squeezing the muscles, sinews, fascia, blood vessels, the flesh and bones of your body, and check if they feel solid or strong. Okay, we're going to go to one other location just for the experience of it. Bring your hands to your thighs or your knees and squeeze here too. Let your hands feel the strength and solidity of your muscles and bones, muscles and bones. Yeah, okay. So for the last 30 seconds of this part, I'd like you to zoom in on the sensations of groundedness or rootedness or solidity. Okay, so let that attention go for the moment. And now scan your body for any part that feels stiff or sore or tight or painful. Let your attention zoom into that location and notice if the sensation that originally drew your attention is the same once you bring your full attention to it. Or is it already different? Is it changing even as you attend to it? If this sensation gets too scary or too big or overwhelms you with pain or difficult emotions, then you back off. There's no need to get overwhelmed here. We're not aiming for overwhelm. We're aiming simply to observe from enough of a distance that we can notice the sensation and whether it's changing or transforming. Okay, so from here, back away from the painful sensation and return to the sensation of solidity, support, rootedness, and groundedness. If the original one you chose earlier no longer seems so appealing, or there's a different one showing up, that's fine to shift and go to a new or different place that feels grounded, solid. Yeah. So now this sense of support, imagine it growing throughout your body. It's slowly expanding. It's extending itself towards the place of tension. As this supportive, solid, rooted sensation comes closer and closer to the painful sensation or the one with tension, there may be movement that seems to help draw the solidity, the groundedness towards the pain in a way that is graceful, unhurried, maybe even beautiful. The movement may be in your spine. It may be how your head is perched on top of your spine, turning or tilting. It may be in your arms or hands. Movement that assists the extension of groundedness towards the place of discomfort. Imagine being a witch who can cast a spell with movement. This spell extends the goodness of groundedness towards or deeper and deeper into the sensation of discomfort or tension. Now, it may be that the original location of tension has changed. The location may have shifted, and there may be a different location now. Or the location may stay the same, but the pain or tension is different. Maybe it's gone completely. And in that case, you can choose a new one. Or maybe it's just changed its shape or color. And it still makes sense to bring the groundedness to this sensation. And the movement may help clarify in your body the sensations of pain or tension and the sensations of a kind of warm embrace. Where your awareness and the sensation of solidity and warmth extend towards the pain. Let the movement be part of this dance. So we'll stay with this process for another 2 minutes. You may consider putting a hand on the part of the body that feels tight or sore or tense. And that touch is another form of a warm embrace. There's 1 minute left. Letting the movement slow down And when you're ready, returning to stillness in your body. Bring attention to your resource, that place of solidity and support. And check if it's changed or if you can tell whether it's any different now, whether it's extended or expanded, and whether the qualities are any different, perhaps richer, or maybe even lustrous. Imagine thanking that part of your body, and then bring some attention to the sensation that originally was painful or tense or tight, and just check how that area is now. Has the sensation transformed, or is it muted or somewhat muted? Or does it feel like there's actually a different location where your attention is drawn when you're scanning or you're attending to pain or discomfort? So this is what the body is like now on the inside. This is what the body is like now on the inside. As you prepare to leave this meditation, wiggle your toes just a little and remind yourself, yep, got feet. Wiggle your fingers, remind yourself, yep, got hands. Wiggle your face, yeah, make a little face, and then relax. And one more, make a face, and relax. Reminding yourself you have a face. Lastly, put both hands over your heart and gently move the flesh over your rib cage. Move that in a way that it feels like your heart down deep can feel your hands, their warmth, their loving touch. And remind yourself, yep, got a heart. When you're ready, let your hands go to wherever they'll be comfortable. Flutter your eyes open enough to scan the room where you are and remind yourself, yep, this is the location. Yep. And then when you're ready, bring your attention to the screen and reconnect with us. No hurry, no hurry, no hurry. Yeah, okay. I'd like to tell you that that particular practice is a variation of something that was taught to me by a fellow who did biodynamic breathing techniques. Um, Jitan is his name, and he's originally from the Ukraine. Okay, so let's check in with our experience of this practice. Um, Yeah, Laura, can you take over?
Marion, I thought I would go to you first since maybe your energy is going to wane a little. So, is there anything you wanted to share, or you just want to keep it all?
I think I'll keep it off for now. Thanks. Listen to others.
Okay, just checking in with you, sweetie. um, anyone feeling moved to share? Okay, well, you think I'll call on myself. I'm thinking of 2 weeks ago, Arlo, when you talked about being present to meditation and how you used to fade away and you're more present. This is my remembrance that you were feeling more present in your meditation. And I'm happy to report that that has continued for me and I'm getting better sleep. And I was
Wow.
really there for every part of it, every word. I didn't miss a thing.
Wow, Laurel.
That's that's amazing.
Yes. Wow.
From the very start, when you talked about the air, I visualized when you were talking about moving the air, I was thinking of like a fan or smudging or smoke going into different parts of me, and it shifted all around in my body when I attended to things, and it was so profound because everything that I paid attention to shifted. Every single thing. Maybe it didn't completely disappear, but it was like magic. It was like, oh, and I realized, like in my neck, how much tension I hold,
Yeah,
holding at my head and
yeah, yeah.
in the past falling asleep in weird ways. And it was like, it was that tension. And so, of course, things are sore because they've just been held so tightly. And then that metaphor, of course, carrying over into my life and thinking about things that I hold tightly and how painful that can be to hold on. And I reflected on Marion and the delegating and letting go. And it was just an amazing experience for me, every single part of it. And just to think that when I put my hand in a certain spot, how it would be relieved. And my elbow's been feeling weird from using a cane and sticks. And it just it was like a salve. And as far as the place in my body where the strength was, I still want to maybe go back and listen and see because it seemed like that shifted too.
Yeah.
So it was very profound for me, very profound.
Yeah. Lola, I want to ask you a question. When you said, or is this what you said, some version of this? Every sensation I brought attention to shifted.
Every single one.
See, like, this is huge for so many reasons. One is from the Buddhist perspective, you are directly experiencing impermanence. Nothing that is created stays the same, and it doesn't last. So our bodies are created, but most of the time we don't have the sensitivity and the staying power to see the continuous change. I remember I was once one of those people. I told my meditation teacher, said, I, no, I brought it up. I said, I feel like I'm sitting on a brick. Like my butt is a brick. It is hard, it is painful, and it never changes. And this is one of the very few, like, there were a couple of weeks where my meditation teacher was a woman, a nun, and she said, keep looking, which was not what I wanted to hear. Basically, the message I got was, you're not done exploring this by any means. And it took like it I didn't know that a mental concept like a brick, I'm sitting on a brick, could become, hang on while I find the word. It could mask, this is it. It could mask my actual experience. The concept masked the actual experience. That in Laura, when that opened up for me, that what I remember having somewhat similar sort of awe and surprise and a sense of like, oh, I'm getting something, like I'm understanding something profound that was always there, but I didn't have the sensitivity or the staying power to observe. Okay, now I'm done.
Anyone else? Dave.
Well, at first, Greg, when you said to locate the place that has some discomfort,
Hmm.
I had some anxiety over that because I thought maybe we're going to have to talk about it.
Oh,
And my place shall not be talked about.
very good. I'm clear. You're clear.
Yeah. So as we went through this session, pendulating, it brought up a story or a joke, I guess, about a guy that began once a week hitting his thumb with a hammer. And he kept doing it like week after week after week. And his friends and family, they were perplexed by why he was doing that. And finally they confronted him and he says, well, it feels so good when I stop. He was actively pendulating.
Yeah, he was. Oh my gosh.
I didn't look at it that way until today. So
now you have a new word for that action. Well, David, was there a place in the body that wasn't painful? And what was it like to do this with your awareness back and forth and then extend warmth or towards the pain?
yeah, I sort of do this a lot, especially with climbing. You know, things I get hurt. You know,
Yeah,
there's a difficult hold or a
yeah,
bad jam or
yeah,
whatever. So there's
yeah,
pain involved,
yeah.
and I've practiced this quite a bit. It becomes an out of body experience. It's oh, that's painful, but it's necessary
Mm.
for me to continue. So the thing that I focused on today, I sort of looked at it that way as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, but um, you know, I go somewhere else.
Is there, even right now, is there a place in your body that feels at ease, that feels
Yeah, yeah,
good or solid? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so this is what we just did.
The discomfort is isolated. It's you know, it's here, it's there, but it's not me. It's not my entire body.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So isolated as in, could we say compartmentalized And
Sure.
so it goes over there,
Yep.
and you're not like giving it a lot of attention.
Right. Yeah, it's part of my experience, but it's not the whole of my experience.
Yeah. So from my perspective, one of the ways of talking about what you're describing is not negation, not suppression, not repression, not denial, but integration. So integration means, yes, it's present, but it's not throwing me off my game. Like it's here, but it's not overwhelming my situation.
It's really about allowing all the other experiences to be recognized at the same time. And for the most part, it's all good.
Yeah. So I'm surprised when I hear you say an out of body experience, because from my perspective, you're describing a very embodied experience, which includes the pain, but it's not overwhelming. The rest of the sensations are also present. So does the out of body image still, does that work? Is that, or is it accurate?
Yeah, I think of it as, oh yeah, that hurts, but that's not me. That's not what's happening with me. That's just a piece of my existence.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think of it in that, it's distant, it's away, it's far away, and it doesn't affect what I'm doing.
Usually when I think about integration, I have a vertical sense of integration, like something down here is solid and then something up here is already present. And so what gets integrated is this middle piece that comes to be the connection between what is below and what is above. But as I listen to you, I begin to think about a pie.
Yeah.
That on the outer edge, the crust edge of the pie, there's pain. It's not being denied. It's not like you're pretending there is no pain. It's not like you're negating the pain. You are acknowledging the pain, but it's not center to your experience.
Yes.
I call that wisdom.
There's one in a row.
Make you laugh. Because my guess is, David, what you're talking about can be applied even when you're not climbing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when I hit myself on the thumb with a hammer.
Okay. Okay, back to you, Lola.
I'm wondering what that was like for you, Carrie, if you want to share.
Initially, I felt like I was delirious throughout the whole thing, but then listening to your explanation, I felt like I was a little bit more on the swing, and it was more of like a little bit of like pendulating with my attention, which I thought was really interesting. I do feel like I need to do it again. And then the other thing I really was aware of is I feel like my resource got much larger, much more I want to say concrete, but I don't feel like that's
robust. Did
I
that
guess
word work?
robust. It's not a brick under my butt, but something like just more not weighted, maybe in some fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's my experience. I have to maybe do it again to see, but I really think like there was so much like transitioning, but I don't know that I was really fully conscious within it.
Okay. Okay.
Carrie, the word that comes to mind is tangible for me when you describe that. That safe place, that solid place becomes tangible.
Yes, and I think that was like, you kind of search for it initially when we were having the conversation, or we're like, find this place. And then like as the time went by or towards the end, then it was much more tangible and much like, for sure, I like that word.
Thank you, Carrie, especially for your your complete honesty, about where you were with the process. Because I spent a lot of time like that, kind of dancing in and out of the process, and so that's great to be aware.
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
I was dancing, good word, Laurel, in and out of today's meditation. I just really have trouble focusing on it. But there was something that you did, Greg, a year or so ago when I was having a lot of pain in my right lower leg.
Oh, yeah.
And you introduced me to stretching, just stretching muscles, doing isometric stretching. But also, there was a time when you physically put I don't know if you remember this in the study, I was lying down and you put your hand on my shin or lower leg.
Mhm.
And I still remember that the pain seemed to dissipate. I didn't get it. I still don't get it, but it was an experience. So thank you for it. And I don't know if that really relates well to to our session today. Anyway.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. The part of you that said, I don't get it, me neither. Like, there's stuff that happens that I don't understand. And by the way, over my time in Mexico, there was an insight around this, and that is when someone else is grieving or suffering, and you can't do anything about it.
Oh, yeah.
That's painful for you. It's certainly painful for them, but I just want to acknowledge that you being around suffering and unable to do anything about it can feel like there's such impotence, I'll leave it at that. However, it's also possible for us to be with someone even though we can't reduce their suffering, even though we don't understand what's going on with them. Our presence, our willingness to be with them is its own kind of gift. It's not so different from being willing to be with our own pain. And I believe that this is something that human beings are, well, no, I don't want to go into my belief right now. I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm done.
I saw Jules' hand up.
Oh, you're on
You're
mute.
on mute, honey.
Carrie, I thought it was interesting that you described your experience as every time you pendulated back into the groundedness, that was more concrete or tangible, to use David's word. I felt that my experience was opposite of that, that when I would swing into the pain, I would get really interested and lost in it a little bit. And yes, it was moving, and yes, it was changing. And then, Greg, when you had us come back to the ground, I noticed like my hips had settled prior. And then when I came back to the ground, it was like my hips were not settled anymore. I couldn't find the ground. I couldn't feel the ground. And so then found and the same thing. I completely lost in the pain and watching it move and fascinated. And then you had us come back and I was like, where is the ground? Which is such a good lesson for me because I often get really pulled into and feeling pain, others' pain. And it's a really good reminder to always sort of tap the ground, like keep checking, keep pendulating back, because I can see how not being able to find the ground
Mm,
is not helping that situation.
mm,
I think.
mm.
Not sure about that, but that feels like that makes sense.
And from my perspective, it also helps you be grounded in the midst of other people's pain or your own pain.
Hmm.
Like, so two things I want to add to what I hear you saying, Jules. One is, yeah, you like use that, your ability to find groundedness or openness, or like the words may change for you, but there's value in doing the exercise to being able to pendulate back into I'm okay, or this is okay. And it may be that as you continue or develop that kind of finesse, it may be that leaving the pain might be enough, and there can just be an openness and an embrace of the situation, and it doesn't need to like be grounded feeling anymore. So that when you leave the pain and you're not really sure where you are, that's okay, that's actually wildly profound. But to recognize that actually I'm not in danger here, this is not threatening, I may not know what's happening, but I'm okay.
I'd like to share one more thing, and this feels a little risque, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
Greg, you shared a few weeks ago that this thought came through that was, these are the best days of my life. And then you questioned it. You said, is it true?
Yeah.
Well, I had this thought feeling come through, and I'm having a real, like, is that true? And I don't know the answer, but I feel like it's a good, curious thought, which is pain is how we know we're alive.
Mm.
And I'm not making that as a statement. I'm really like, oh, is that true?
Mm.
I don't know.
Mm. Mm. Okay, so what's risque about that?
Because I'm sharing that I don't know, like that wasn't me that had that thought. It feels like it just at all wasn't me. And that's why I'm like, is that true? Where did that come from?
So is the risque part the unknowingness around that thought and the fact that the thought came from you're not sure where it came from?
I guess the risque is more that feels a little dark to say.
Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah, yeah. I get you. So I want to tell you from my perspective, your willingness to allow dark thoughts to have a place, like in your awareness, right? There it is. There's a dark thought. Or maybe it's a dark thought. Like even just to have those kinds of options and to not clamp down on it's this or it's that. It's one or it's the other with rigidity. That's opening up your life to how do I don't hang on what I'm going to try to finish this sentence. You know how a human being can see certain colors, and then there's infrared over here that we cannot see, and there's ultraviolet over here that we cannot see. We know they exist, but we just can't see them with our eyeballs. It seems to me that you are opening to being able to perceive more than just the normal vision. And you're extending your capacity for perception beyond this little bit, including where I feel safe in the light. And I'm willing to allow for thoughts or questions that have a dusky or even dark quality to them.
Just have to say that I want to get to everybody, and yet those last two shares, what you shared, Greg, and what you shared, Jules, are so very helpful to me because in the chat I put that my friend is in the Grand Canyon of pain right now. I'm just, I don't know. And I'm just doing my very best to be there with her, let her know that I'm here. And there's nothing I can do, as far as to take, and she needs to go through that pain in order to live. So it's so profound what you said, Jules. I feel like the only way she's going to make it to the other side, this is just my thought, is that she has to go through this incredible pain. And it's, they're devastated. And I appreciate Kevin and different people who sent some love, and Katie. And so continuing to work on being around that. And that's something that I've always struggled with, being empathic and um, wanting to stay there with my pain and with other people's pain. But not let it permeate my soul, so that I can't function. So thank you both. Kevin or Arlo, you got words for us?
I can jump in. Um, Three things. One, it's just a PS onto what you just said, Laurel. I remember many years ago, a good friend of mine had a very painful surgery, and she had all sorts of friends, so lots of people were visiting her in the hospital. And so one day I made the trek to the hospital and found my way to her room, and she was zonked out. So I just sat in the chair in the corner of the room. I didn't know if she'd wake up or sleep the entire time I was there, but at one point she woke up and we chatted a little bit, and she was pretty groggy, so I wasn't like trying to encourage her to stay awake. But when I left, she said, "You're the only person that's come to visit me so far that has been with me instead of being with my pain. And you're the only person so far that your visit has made me feel better." Um, so I would just encourage you to remember that the being that's hurting needs to be with more than being with her pain. So that was one thought. Greg, when you said you weren't sure if pendulation was a real word or not, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but I posted.
I just saw that, Kevin. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, other than the definition, the second thing that came up was a little website called Pendulation in Trauma Therapy.
Oh.
And there are 3 sentences that are pretty chewy here. It says pendulation is an essential bodywork tool that can be useful in many areas of trauma treatment. It describes the inner motion of our attention and awareness, moving back and forth between a resourceful place and something trauma related / a place that is low in resources. The goal is to dissolve states that are stuck, bringing some movement into our nervous system and achieve regulation.
Wow.
So,
wow. Kevin, can you copy that from the website and put it in the chat?
Sure, I'll do it right now. But I just thought that was
the WhatsApp chat later on, so we could refer back to it or dive in that lake ourselves. God, when you were speaking, Kevin, the story that you told with and then listening to that when you were sharing about that and watching Jules, I was just like,
this website, apparently that's an image, so I can't write the second copy of the text, but I'll transcribe it and put it in the chat. But I just thought that you going from thinking you maybe made up a word to actually hitting on something that is that in fact juicy. Well done, brother.
Thank you. By the way, what we're practicing is an orientation that we can bring to our children too, so that they realize they have internal capacities for dealing with the inevitable difficulties of life. Kevin, did we get all 3 of your points?
Nope, not yet. There's the website. I just posted that. That's where that statement exists. My experience of the practice was interesting in that, coming off of 4 days of eating and drinking in ways that are not my normal way of existing. At the moment, I'm feeling pretty thick and dim versus light and bright. And so my, there were physical places I could focus on. I mean, my stomach, where I'm still dealing with surgery issues, is it's an easy target. But there's a more generalized sense of malaise that I'm dealing with at the moment. And um, when I was looking for that place of what you were calling groundedness, or what this thing that I just read, that, you know, a moving back and forth between a resource slash resourceful place and something, and a place that's low in resources, that place of light and bright, high energy, healthy feeling. It's like I mostly was able to relate to that as a concept. It's not like, oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Um, um, but it's like the fact that I do spend a great deal of time there, that it's not a concept that's foreign. It's a concept like, oh no, that's accessible to me. I know that's there. I may not be feeling it at this exact moment, or even be able to pinpoint it somewhere in my body, but that is available to me. And it's like, well, this is going to be a health week. You know, this is going to be a week of uh, eating the consuming the nourishment, which is food, which is exercise, which is movement, uh, you know, nourishing myself back up with those resources that are at the moment conceptual, but they're just a little bit over here. So digging into those, and just kind of being mindful of the fact that, oh, okay, I have spent several days kind of like consuming things that have a very temporary pleasure associated with them, and the tail is not particularly pleasant. The Whereas, you know, I wish going to the gym consistently felt as uh, temporarily delicious as a fabulous glass of Zinfandel. You know, it doesn't, but but the tail end is a great reward. So kind of leaning into leaning into knowing that the investment in consuming various forms of nourishment, and knowing that the tail end of that will be the lighter and the brighter, as opposed to the thick and the dim that I'm sitting in. So um, it was it, for a very physically oriented practice. What I walked away with was more a like, okay, if I want to have that kind of physical positivity, I need to lean into the concept until it becomes a bit more real at the moment. So um, it is going to be a week of returning to the light and the bright. And that's all three things.
Arlo, did I freeze up?
Yeah, I had to unmute. My internet's been coming in and out, and boy, I'll tell you, that's pretty frustrating. I'm not sure. All of a sudden, I'll be into this thought process with the group, and then it freezes. Um, and the second thing is I've got a cold. I picked it up over Thanksgiving with different people, and so I've been kind of on and off miserable for the last day or so. And you know, you started talking about the pains. I have all sorts of aches and pains, but usually they only bother me when I'm doing an activity that promotes that. So you start out this activity of us finding pain, and I must say that I couldn't find it. I
Wow.
I was sitting here, I was comfortable, I was breathing deep, I didn't have to blow my nose. My
Oh.
head was clear, and I kept on thinking, well, where is it? And it's kind of like maybe I needed to take a hammer out and hit my thumb, but that seemed kind of stupid. So I really enjoyed the meditation, but I don't think I gained anything from it because I wasn't able to get into my own self pain. Um, I wrote down I sometimes have a hard time feeling other people's pain, and so this did kind of bring up because I was thinking, well, maybe that's because I sometimes can't feel my own pain all that well. And it made me realize that just the other day we had an experience. Sean had a seizure, and we've got 7 different nurses, Sean's mother, me, and everybody kind of analyzes and looks at things differently. You know, I've been with Sean for his whole life, and he's had many seizures over the years, but it's been controlled until just recently. And I realized that the experience I had with it, which is the pain part, is that one of the nurses just said, "Oh, well, they had a seizure." And then she left. It was change of shift. And then the other nurse came in and she was completely and totally freaked out about the whole thing. And I'm sitting here going, thinking my own personal, I've never had a seizure, but his past seizures, the one nurse just casually saying she left, and the other one completely and totally freaked out. And I'm thinking in my mind, what the fuck am I going to do about this? So I did what all good people do. I handed it over to the Sean's mom, to Debbie, and let her deal with it. But then we had a conversation the next day, and it made me realize that, in spite of my analysis, that I have to be empathetic to the nurse as much as anything. I can't help Sean. I can't help him with the seizure, but I realized I probably was not appropriate in the way I was acknowledging that second nurse who was just completely flipped out about the whole thing. And so I don't know. I'm wondering maybe if I'll go back to the original statement. Since sometimes I can't feel my own pain, maybe this is something I need to explore more so I can be more empathetic to other people's pain.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. I bet that would be the case. The more attuned you are to your own pain, the more natural, easygoing attunement there will be to others' pain. And one of the things that shows up in my world is knowing that I've survived pain, painful situations, etc., gives me a courage, an internal optimism that allows me to be present for other people's pain when they don't know they can survive this. Because maybe they're facing it for the first time, or it appears so big, or it's overwhelming. They are frightened to give any attention to their pain. I'm not. At least in this circumstance that I'm trying to describe. So for people to be with somebody who is attentive to the situation, attuned to the situation, and not freaking out is a beautiful resource to that person who's afraid.
You know,
one thing I've been doing since we've been doing the meditation is to try to be less reactive to what's happening, less saying something about it, but being more present. To speaking to what you said, Kevin, about being in the room with the person that had just recovered from surgery. And that is just so against everything I've done in the past. I mean, I'm just a reactive guy, and sometimes it's really a good thing, but other times it's totally inappropriate. And and so it's I know I'm getting better, and this is a path. I think Kevin, you said the last week we were doing speaking into existence, and I I'm I'm working on that.
The distinctions that you are making, Arlo, and it speaks to how Greg was describing earlier the integration in the pie and being aware of the pain. And what I'm not judging this, what I'm kind of hearing with you is more the compartmentalizing or the disassociating from pain, which is natural and healthy sometimes so we can survive. But that is a very different place than acknowledging and not diving into it, just knowing it's there. And so I think you're making some wonderful explorations here and awarenesses, and you just have me, Arlo. I just think it's great. I'm I just applaud you. I do, because you're diving into areas that you're outside your comfort zone a lot of the time here, and I just love you, Arlo. We're such mirrors for each other. Your reactiveness and your talkativeness, and we're very alike, and we could clash, and we have clashed a little, but never in the heart. Just only out here. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Just so you know, Greg, we're running a little low on time, and that's why I kind of skipped from Kevin right to Arlo, and I asked Jules to close us out today because I just have a feeling that I wanted her to do that.
Lovely. Thank you.
Okay, so we will close. And I just had this idea, if we could keep our eyes open for a minute and look around the screen. And like we came on today, picture when we all logged on, it was the beginning of a day. The sun was rising on this moment. And we had this experience. We had our own experiences. And now we gently come into ourselves and close our eyes. Taking some breaths into your stomach. And like the night, the blessing of the night that provides integration for our experiences in the day, we ask that our internal and external experiences from this time together integrate into our systems. And taking 2 more breaths together, inhaling through the nose and exhaling, sighing out through the mouth. 1 more in, sighing out, and picturing the glimmer of the sunrise behind your eyes, like a new day starting. Gently open your eyes, and when you're ready, look back at the screen on this new dawn. Much love.